The impact of the Iran war, folks, is beyond what you're hearing and thinking about. It's funny because I'm out in San Francisco today on some business. I was having lunch with somebody who's really knowledgeable about the oil markets. Our reserves are getting close to zero. We're going to have a big crash in June, sometime in late June, when our strategic reserves run out and the company's reserves here in America start to run out. Mm-hmm. There's a clip we have of a guy telling us when gas prices are going to go back down. I want to play this so you guys understand the degree to which Donald Trump did this to you.
Yeah.
How long is it going to be before we actually start to see some relief? Look at this. This is where we were before the war started. This is where we are right now. There's a huge amount of time that it's going to take, according to the futures market, before we get back down to that sub $70 an oil level. Look at this, 2032. So you want $3 gas again, you're going to have to wait maybe 6 years.
There are people who think that the war ends and then the next day we're going to start seeing the prices go down.
That's exactly what I was going to ask you. It's like, why is it that the American people right now are disconnected from this idea that the consequences of this war are much longer running and much deeper running than Donald Trump throwing a switch?
You know, I often think about this notion of the normalcy bias.
Sure.
This idea that, that you just, you sort of refuse to have the imagination for the possibility of catastrophe. And so you sort of, you adapt to certain realities that are actually far worse than they really are. And so, people can pick and choose specific economic indicators like, a high stock market that's at this point seems to somehow have tolerated all of this with the assumption that maybe things aren't really so bad. But a detail like that, and it's a detail that's indicative of something much bigger. Because obviously the ripple effects of high gas and oil prices are going to have consequences for food prices and transportation and pretty much everything.
It blows my mind that there is a belief out there somewhere that there is that there's some magical gas for our oil inventories. I think we have a slide on that, don't we? Mm-hmm. That our petroleum inventories are somehow, we don't actually, sorry, that they're infinite somehow, that they're just not. We've been burning through the SPR, the petroleum reserve, like crazy in the last 60 days now of this war. And it's just not going to get better. I find that amazing.
Yeah, and people who even think that before the midterm somehow that that tomorrow you're going to end the war and that it's somehow going to sort of work out for people.
Yeah, Kevin Hassett pops up like a little weird Muppet from Bad Touch Muppets every couple of days and says, "Oh, it's going to be fine. We're fine."
But in a way, there's the same question that you were asking about Trump's health, right? Like we're not being told the truth about what's really happening. So we're not being told the truth about the war. It was in the first month we were told repeatedly that they declared victory and that it was a major victory. We won. I'm just going to wait until they cry uncle and surrender with white flags and all the sort of fictionalized pictures that he had of how this was going to work out heroically for him. And then how many times it's gone back and forth, the war that's ended, the war that's begun again, ceasefire, not a ceasefire, seems to be to manipulate the stock market. But again, it's all sort of part and parcel, like nothing that he says can be trusted. And it's remarkable. I mean, I think at some point, a lot of the people who just sort of think, well, things will get better because they can't actually trust anything that he says, so they have to find some other way to understand what's really happening.